Sup guys, it's Alex here, and welcome to the January 12th edition of the Bracketology update. And man, as you can see, just taking a look here at the bracket, there has been a ton of movement over the course of this past weekend's games. There were just crazy upsets, crazy finishes. I mean, Michigan State lost to Purdue, but I mean, they blew like a 15-point halftime lead and ended up losing by 1 to Purdue. Then we had teams like Kentucky finally getting a huge road win with Keon Brooks back over Florida. Don't know where Kentucky's going to go, but they are currently tied with Alabama for the SEC lead, and those two teams play tonight. So if Kentucky beats Alabama, they'll be in the tournament on Friday's Bracketology update as the automatic qualifier from the SEC, which is pretty crazy to see. I mean, they're not really an at-large team right now, but I mean, hey, if you win the conference, you don't have to worry about being an at-large team. But then we have another weird case of like Illinois, who came back from, I think it was another 15-point deficit. It was like 43-28 or something like that to Northwestern. Came back and just blew them out of the water. It was like 58-18 in the second quarter, or not second quarter, second half, which is really bad for Northwestern. I think Northwestern's out of the tournament as of right now. But then they go and lose at home to Maryland I think it was last night, which is just absolutely crazy. Illinois is just one of those teams that is super talented, Final Four team talent, but I mean, they just can't really put it together. I mean, I don't really know what's going on with that program. Then we got teams like Duke and North Carolina falling to the bubble, which I'll show in a couple minutes. Then you got teams like Rutgers. Rutgers started off the season like 7-1 or 8-1 or something like that, but they've lost, I think, 3 out of the last 5 or 4 out of their last 5 or something crazy like that. I love that team's talent, but similar to Illinois, they just are struggling to put it together right now. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, either way, as you can see, there's just been a ton of crazy movement here. Taking a look at Region 1, we still have Gonzaga as the number 1 overall seed. San Diego State fell down to an 8. The playing game as the 11 seed right there is North Carolina and Oklahoma, which is pretty crazy. Then we have Illinois falling down to a 3, Grand Canyon new to the field as a 14. Virginia falling down to a 7, Michigan State falling down to a 10, Tennessee going up to a 2 seed up on the 2 line, taking Illinois' spot, and then we have Navy falling down to a 15. Then if we go over there to Region 2, we have Baylor remaining the 1, LSU now up to an 8. I think they got a pretty big road win, or not a big road win, but they did get a road win over the past of this last week. I know they beat Georgia at home. I can't remember who they beat on the road, but either way, it was pretty impressive for them. We had UAB new to the field as a 13. Colorado up to a 6. They had a pretty impressive come-from-behind road win against Utah. I think they were down like 37-27 at the half last night. They are now up to a 6 seed. And we have UConn up to a 7. They beat DePaul on the road last night. And we have Duke down to a 10 and Little Rock down to a 15. Then if we took a look over here at Region 3, we have Villanova remaining the 1 seed in Region 3. North Dakota State new to the field as a 16. Richmond new to the field as a 12. Texas Tech now up to a 4. UCLA up to a 6. Rutgers down to a 7, and Florida down to a 10. Then over there in Region 4, we have Texas remaining the 1, Southern Utah down to a 16, USC up to an 8, Xavier up to a 9, Ohio State now up to a 5, Boise State falling down to a 12. Not sure why they fell to a 12 there. They haven't lost since their first overall game, which I think was Houston. They did struggle a little bit with Wyoming, but ended up going on like an 18-2 run to end the game, which is pretty crazy last night. But then we have Liberty new to the field as a 13. Alabama, as I mentioned, plays for the SEC lead tonight against Kentucky, now up to a 6. The other playing game is Stanford and Syracuse as the 11 seed right there. Then we have Siena down to a 14, Oklahoma State up to a 10, and Cleveland State up to a 15. So taking a look here at the bubble, we have, there we go. If we take a look at the last 4 byes, we have Florida, Michigan State, Duke, and Purdue. Duke is now on the bubble, as you can see. They need to start stringing together some impressive wins. Last 4 in are North Carolina, Stanford, Oklahoma, and Syracuse. First 4 out are NC State, Maryland, Northwestern, and BYU. And then the next 4 out are VCU, Penn State, Providence, and Pittsburgh. So if we take a look here at the Bracketology, if you guys are new, every time the Bracketology comes out here, I make my own predictions and stuff using this Excel sheet to where I can just fill out my entire championship bracket just based off of Joe Lunardi's Bracketology. And if you're here because the college football championship ended last night with just a drubbing of Ohio State by Alabama, it was pretty crazy to see. Devonta Smith is a college football legend at this point. He is so good. But yeah, if you're new to just following college basketball now because the college football season is over, welcome. We're glad to have you. We got 2 more months until Selection Sunday. Let's kick it off here with this first matchup of Gonzaga and then NC and Arkansas Pine Bluff. Obviously, we're going to have Gonzaga win that one. Then we're also going to have San Diego State here moving on past Florida State. I'm going to go with Toledo pulling off the 12-over-5 upset here over Missouri. Just not sold on Missouri this season. They had a great start to the season, struggled to beat Bradley by 1 at home, and then I just haven't been able to get truly behind them over the course of the start of SEC play. I'm going to go with an upset pick there with Toledo as the 5 seed. I'm going to go with West Virginia over Furman. West Virginia almost beat Texas. That was another game I forgot to mention at the top of the video. We had Texas coming from behind and beating West Virginia on a last-second shot, which was pretty crazy to see. Congratulations to Andrew Jones for hitting that shot. Then we're going to have St. Louis beating the winner of North Carolina and Oklahoma, which honestly at this point is probably going to be Oklahoma. Then we're going to have Illinois beating Grand Canyon. That one's going to be pretty easy. Virginia and Michigan State. This, if you had asked me about this matchup before the season started, I would have said this was a potential Final Four or championship game matchup, but here we have it in the first round as a 7 versus 10, and I am going to go with Virginia. As much as I wanted to pick Michigan State there, I mean, they are just faltering down the stretch here recently. I mean, especially blowing that huge lead at home to Purdue. Then we're going to go with Tennessee here, moving on past Navy. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we are going to have Gonzaga moving on past San Diego State, West Virginia handling Toledo, and we're going to have Illinois beating St. Louis and Virginia losing to Tennessee. I thought I'd switch it up on you guys there. But then for a spot in the Elite Eight, we will have Gonzaga moving on past West Virginia. Then in a battle of the orange teams, I am going to go with Iota and Sumu and Illinois. I know they just can't put it together, but I mean, they got 2 months to figure it out. They are more talented than Tennessee. Tennessee having a great run here to the Sweet 16, but I'm just not completely sold on Tennessee. I believe more in Illinois. I'm going to follow my gut on that one and go with Illinois. But then either way, whoever wins between the Illinois and Tennessee matchup will end up losing to Gonzaga there. I have no doubts that Gonzaga is going to make it to the Final Four out of that region. So then if we go over here to Region 2, we're going to have Baylor beat the winner of Sam Houston State and Stony Brook. LSU, I think, can beat Seton Hall there. Then we're going to go with another 12-over-5 upset with Winthrop over Oregon. I think Winthrop's like 11-0 or 12-0 or something crazy like that at this point. Oregon's been struggling to win some close games recently. Why not go with an upset pick there? Why not go with the undefeated team in Winthrop getting the 12-over-5 upset? Then we're going to go with Clemson moving on past UAB. Colorado, I think, can beat Purdue. Then we're going to go with Houston moving on past Bryant. I am going to go with Duke here, pulling off the 10-over-7. I think Mike Krzyzewski won't lose in the first round to UConn there to Bobby Hurley. Then we're going to go with Iowa moving on past Little Rock. But then for a spot in Sweet 16, we're going to have Baylor moving on past LSU, and then Clemson, who's been really impressive this season. I didn't mention them at the top of the video because they had COVID issues. They were supposed to play North Carolina this past weekend, but Clemson has been really impressive over the course of the season so far. They are a dangerous team you need to watch out for here in the coming months. So then we're going to have Houston here with, I think Caleb Mills ended up leaving the program, so it's led by Quentin Grimes right now. I think that they can beat Colorado there in a 3-over-6 matchup. Then we're going to go with Iowa here with Luka Garza, Player of the Year. I think he's just going to run away with it at this point. Maybe some Gonzaga players like Corey Kispert or Jalen Suggs can make a run at it, but I think Luka Garza is going to win it. But then we have Baylor winning here against Clemson in the Elite Eight, or for a spot in the Elite Eight. Then we're going to have Iowa with Luka Garza moving on here past Houston, and then Baylor moving on to the national championship game, or not the national championship game, the Final Four by beating Iowa there, which that would be a pretty good matchup to see. Just believe in Baylor's defense a lot more than I do Iowa's. So then here in Region 3, we are going to go with Villanova moving on past North Dakota State. Arkansas, I think, can beat Indiana. Minnesota here, I think, will be able to handle Richmond, and then Texas Tech will beat Belmont. Then I'm going to go with an upset pick here and go with Drake over UCLA in an 11-over-6 matchup. Drake is undefeated this season. They are at the top of the MVC. I think they are a dangerous team to watch out for, similar to another MVC representative a couple years ago in Loyola Chicago as an 11 seed. Not a huge believer in UCLA this season either, so that matchup makes it pretty easy for me to pull or make the upset pick with Drake over UCLA. I'm going to go with Wisconsin moving on past UC Irvine. Rutgers, I think, will be able to beat Florida in a battle of the two struggling teams as of late there. Then Kansas will be able to beat Northeastern. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we are going to go with Villanova here, moving on past Arkansas. I'm going to go with Texas Tech with Chris Beard, moving on past Minnesota. Minnesota was another team that was firing on all cylinders out of the gate, but they have been struggling a little bit as of late. I'm going to go with Wisconsin here. I almost, you heard the hesitation of my voice. I was going to go with Drake to pull off the upset there over Wisconsin, but I just can't bring it I just can't bring myself to do it. Then we're going to go with Kansas here, moving on past Rutgers. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, I'm going to pull off the upset here and go with Texas Tech in the 4-over-1 there. I think Villanova will be the first 1 seed to fall at this point in the tournament. I really believe in Texas Tech this season with Mac McClung and Chris Beard. I think that they can get the job done and pull off the upset there over Villanova. And then I'm going to go with Kansas here, moving on past Wisconsin. But then for a spot in the Final Four, I am going to go with Chris Beard and Texas Tech. This team has done it before. Did it in the last tournament that we actually had. They made it to the national championship game against Virginia. Just crazy that was like 2 years ago, and that was the last tournament that we've had. But I do believe in Chris Beard. I think they're starting to turn it on. They beat Iowa State by like 26 or something like that, crazy, this past weekend. But then if we go over here to Region 4, we'll have Texas moving on past Southern Utah. Xavier, I think, can beat USC in a 9-over-8 slight upset. Ohio State, I think, will be able to beat Boise State, and then Louisville can beat Liberty. Then I'm going to go with Alabama moving on past the winner of Stanford and Syracuse, which I think at this point will probably be Stanford. Then I'm going to go with Creighton here moving on past Siena. Then I'm going to go with Cade Cunningham and Oklahoma State pulling off the slight 10-over-7 upset over West Virginia, Virginia Tech. Then Michigan, who has been on absolute fire, they're still undefeated at this point. I think they move on past Cleveland State. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we will have Texas here moving on past Xavier. I think Louisville will be able to move on past Ohio State. Louisville's only loss was to Wisconsin without their transfer Carlik Jones. They are starting to look impressive too with that huge win over Virginia Tech last week. Then we're going to have Creighton moving on past Alabama, and then Michigan beating Oklahoma State. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, we are going to have an upset pick here with Louisville pulling off the 4-over-1 upset over Texas. I mean, that's just my gut talking right there. I think Texas is the more talented team than Louisville, but Louisville is still missing 2 players like Malik Williams, and I can't remember who else they're missing, but they are looking really good so far. Without those 2 players, they're now number 16 in the nation. I think they could pull off the upset there over Texas. And then Michigan, I think, will be able to beat Creighton. And then in a battle of the 2013 national championship game that never happened because of Louisville's vacated title, I am going to go with Michigan getting the revenge from that game and moving on to the Final Four out of that region. So then for a spot in the national championship, we will have Gonzaga here moving on past Michigan, and we will also have Baylor moving on past Texas Tech in a battle of the Big 12 teams, which sets up Gonzaga versus Baylor in the national championship game as it should be, and I am going to go with Gonzaga. They are just looking so good throughout the course of the season. There's just no reason for me not to pick them here to win the national championship unless they start to falter or Baylor just starts blowing the teams out of the water even more than they already have. But yeah, either way, there we have it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out my other bracketology videos. Make sure you subscribe. At this point in the video, I know there's probably only going to be like 20 seconds left, but I forgot to mention the food item. So if you're still watching the video with this like 15 seconds to go, comment. You know what we're going to do? Gosh, what do we want to do? Comment cucumber. How about that? I mean, I may get age restricted because of that. But either way, comment cucumber below. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe and like the video if you did enjoy. Make sure you have those post notifications turned on for when I do upload these bracketologies. And I will see you all later.